Welcome to Doctoring the Truth, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on healthcare gone wrong. I'm your host, Jenna Tennell, and with me is my delightful co-host, Amanda House. We're two doctors of audiology here to bring you inside real-life cases where once trusted healthcare providers veered off the ethical path into criminal territory. Go. Amanda!
Jenna!
Hello,
my friend.
How are you, darling?
I'm good. Recovering from my little cold. So, apologize, guys. I have a little nasally situation.
Well, happy Memorial Day and happy AMAs, and let's go, Tay-Tay. We've got to get into it because your girls got to listen to watch the AMAs and make sure that we're well represented.
Do we think she's going to be announcing new album? We'll see.
I hope so.
Yeah, so like she said, we're going to kind of get into it. Happy Memorial Day. Hope you guys had a long, nice, safe weekend. We don't really have a correction other than last time we were going to check the protein count on the old yogurt because
we had a little disagreement because I said for sure there's no way there's 15 grams of protein. I don't know why I care.
And I'm like, no way. For sure my Chobani has that. Well, okay, so they don't have 15, but they have 12 grams. That's pretty good. So anyway, if y'all are into yogurt, we get the fruit on the bottom. Chobani, it's pretty good.
Yeah, but they don't sponsor us, so, you know.
Yeah, and actually that's, anyway. I was going to start talking about my weird texture oddities, and I'm like, no, we don't even need to go there. So anyway, we know you guys have heard about Stand Plus shoes. You've heard about them, right? Yeah, we've talked about them. But just in case you didn't hear about them, let me tell you what. They are built for anyone that is on their feet all day, healthcare pros, service workers, athletes, and more. Founded by Rob Gregg after grueling 16-hour postal shifts, Stand Plus Shoes delivers unmatched comfort, support, and protection made with ultralight XL material and 7mm ortholite insoles, reducing pressure on joints instead of rebounding like traditional athletic shoes. They are ranked number 1 in lab tests for comfort and pressure relief. Stand Plus is a slip and fluid resistant, machine washable, breathable, and antimicrobial. Recognized by Fast Company and Forbes, Stand Shoes is redefining all-day comfort so you can stand strong longer. Visit www.standshoes.com for 15% off any product with our code STAYSUSPICIOUS. I used a boatload of resources, so they will all be listed in the show notes. Honestly, probably one of my biggest resources that I used was this case was covered on a Oxygen Channel show, and it had the entire transcript of the show, which was like a huge win, right? So if you don't have cable, then you don't have access to shows. But the whole transcript for the show was online. So, I got a good storyline from that. So thanks, Oxygen. Trigger warning for this episode is substance abuse and explosives. Okay. All right. Shall we get into it? Okay. Here we go. Ellie Liana Harris was born in July 1980 and raised in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Ellie grew up full of life. She was energetic, with a passion for sports and a love for the outdoors, and she had an artistic talent that stood out even in her early years. Her creativity and vibrant spirit lit up the world around her, and she was deeply loved by her close-knit, hands-on family. From the outside, she seemed destined for a bright, fulfilling life. But during high school, something shifted. Her family began to notice a subtle but undeniable change. Ellie started pulling away. She became distant and quiet, and her circle of friends changed. The light in her began to dim. It was more than a typical teenage rebellion. There was something deeper happening. And eventually, Ellie opened up to her family that she had experimented with drugs. She told them that she had tried heroin and smoked crack.
Oh.
I mean, like, you have kids. So, like,
yeah.
I mean, could you imagine?
Like a weed gummy, I'd flip out. Like, holy cow, heroin. I mean, all it takes is once. And we know, we've talked about cannabis-induced psychosis. I'm just
scary.
God, having kids is so scary. Yeah.
Her mother, Teresa, was devastated. She said, quote, "To hear the words, 'Your daughter took heroin,' that she got a needle and shot up heroin, and she got a pipe and she smoked some crack. You question everything you've ever done," end quote. How could this have happened in a home where love and support was abundant? Ellie tried to explain, "Mama, it's very hard to be the only one in the room to stand up and say no." Her words were heartbreaking to a mother. The pressure to fit in, the weight of standing alone against temptation, it had all become too much for Ellie. Despite being proactive and involved, her family felt helpless. They were at a loss for how to help. They confronted Ellie multiple times, always leading with love and hope, but addiction is a powerful force and one that doesn't discriminate, and one that can take root even in the most nurturing environments. Ellie eventually went away to college in Russellville, Arkansas. It wasn't long before she reached out again, and this time her voice was different. Quote, "Mama, you gotta come and get me. I want to get some help," end quote. She was just 18 years old. The call marked a turning point. Ellie entered an inpatient rehabilitation program, and over the next several weeks, she made some really great progress. She was engaged, hopeful, and committed to recovery. And for the first time in a long time, her family began to feel hope rising. Ellie was proud of her decision to seek help and of her strength to face addiction head on.
Bless her heart.
But 2 years later, in the winter of 2000, Ellie slipped on the ice and injured her back. The pain was intense, and over-the-counter medications weren't enough. Her family was determined to help her manage the pain without jeopardizing her recovery and took her to a doctor named Randeep Mann, who was known to include pain management in his practice. They were very cautious and wary of her history, but they were transparent with Dr. Mann about her past. They explained everything to him and made one thing abundantly clear, that they wanted treatment that would not derail her hard-won sobriety. Dr. Mann seemed understanding. He listened and assured the family he could manage Ellie's pain while keeping her in recovery. Her mother left the appointment with a sense of relief, believing that he truly cared and was committed to helping in a safe way. Dr. Mann prescribed 2 medications for Ellie, Xanax and Vicodin.
Oh, jeez.
If we know anything about those, guys, highly addictive.
Yeah. Both of them.
Yes.
Oh.
It had been 14 months since Ellie's first visit to Dr. Randeep Mann. Her back pain had improved significantly, and on the surface, life seemed to be stabilizing. For the first time in a long time, there was room for joy and room for her family to step back a little bit and just breathe. But by spring, Ellie's family began noticing familiar signs. The signs were subtle at first, but impossible to ignore. She was hard to wake up, she seemed sluggish, and was frequently constipated. The Ellie that they had started to see reemerging was slipping away again. Unbeknownst to them, Ellie was becoming addicted, this time not to street drugs, but to the very medications prescribed to help her. What started out as a hopeful step towards managing the pain had opened the door to a new and dangerous dependency. On January 30th, 2002, Ellie's mother, Teresa, and her partner had boarded a flight to Las Vegas. It was supposed to just be a short getaway, something light after the years of heavy worry. And when their plane touched down, Teresa's phone began to ring. And she expected it was Ellie. She knew when their flight was, so she thought it was her calling to make sure that they had landed safely. But it wasn't Ellie. It was Teresa's cousin, who said, "There's something I need to tell you." Teresa instinctively handed the phone to her partner, and her stomach dropped. Something was wrong, terribly wrong, and she listened in silence. Then, placing a steady hand on Teresa's shoulders, this was her partner, touched her. Her eyes met his, and the words, quote, "We lost Ellie," end quote, came from his mouth. The words shattered the air.
Oh, no. I can't imagine.
Back in Russellville, I can't imagine. Oh. Back in Russellville, investigators had entered Ellie's apartment. They found her lying still on the couch. Prescription bottles were scattered nearby. Toxicology reports would later confirm what they already feared. Ellie had died of a drug overdose. To her family, it made no sense. She hadn't seemed depressed. There had been no obvious signs of despair. The medical examiner ruled it an accidental death. Teresa, heartbroken, naturally, and searching for answers, made a phone call to Dr. Mann, who had seen Ellie just days before her death. She said to him, "She saw you Friday afternoon. Why did she die?" And he just, cool, calm, and collected, said, "She overdosed." Teresa says, "She overdosed on what you gave her." And his voice was cold and detached, and he said, quote, "I have no control over my patients. When people leave, they can do anything with their medications," end quote.
Ugh.
Douchebag. Right? There was no apology, no empathy, no sense of loss. Teresa remembers that moment vividly, not just the grief, but the chilling realization that this man, who once seemed so attentive, so trustworthy, showed zero compassion. In the months that followed, Ellie's death became more than a personal tragedy. It was part of a disturbing trend. Local investigators began noticing an uptick in overdose deaths. At each scene, they gathered evidence, pill bottles, prescriptions, and medical records. Again and again, one name continued to appear: Dr. Randeep Mann. Have you heard of this guy before?
No.
He's a real treat.
Apparently. Jeez.
Yeah. A pattern was emerging, one that could not be ignored. Mann was prescribing unusually high volumes of powerful narcotics to patient after patient. Families were grieving. The community was suffering, and yet at the time, there were few legal tools to stop him. In 2002, no clear law existed to hold a doctor criminally responsible for overprescribing medication. So, despite the growing body count, Dr. Mann continued to practice. If no one could stop him, more people like Ellie would continue to die. So who is this Randeep Mann? He's not really a treat, like I said. He arrived in the United States in 1980. He had recently, at the time, graduated from the Armed Forces Medical College in Pune, India, which is an elite institution known for training military physicians. In pursuit of a greater opportunity, he completed an internship in Wisconsin and eventually became board certified in internal medicine. For years, he built a career as a conventional doctor, but in 1998, everything changed. While traveling through Tennessee, he was involved in a serious motorcycle accident. The injuries were very severe and life-altering. And when he recovered, something in him seemed to shift, whether it was the pain he endured, the frustration with treatment, or a new perspective gained from the suffering. He made a pivotal decision that he wanted to specialize in pain management. At the time, pain management was emerging as a fast-growing field, largely unregulated and highly lucrative. Mann returned to Arkansas and opened the only pain management clinic in Russellville. The response from the community was immediate. Business was booming. Patients came in droves, desperate for relief. Many of these people were suffering after injuries, surgeries, or chronic conditions that left them with persistent pain. He offered answers in the form of prescriptions. In a rural area with few specialists and even fewer restrictions, he quickly became a central figure in the region's healthcare landscape. But behind the rapid success, something darker was beginning to take root. People were getting more than relief. They were getting hooked, and no one seemed to be watching.
Oh, boy.
Shelley Green was the youngest of 3 girls, the baby of the family, bright, playful, and full of life. She had always been the spark in the room, the one who could make people laugh even in the toughest moments. But at 14, her world began to fracture. Her parents divorced that year, and though the split was difficult for everyone, it hit Shelley really hard. The safe, predictable structure of her life unraveled. and in the chaos, she turned to alcohol. Drinking became her way of numbing the pain and how she coped with change that she couldn't control. Not long after, her mother was diagnosed with fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis, both painful chronic illnesses that don't always show visible symptoms. Watching her mom navigate a world of pain and prescriptions, Shelley saw an opportunity. She began to claim that she too was suffering. She mimicked her mother's symptoms so convincingly that she eventually was taken to see the same doctor her mother trusted, Dr. Randeep Mann.
Oh, no.
Despite being a teenager without a formal diagnosis or a legitimate medical reason, Shelley walked out of Mann's office with powerful prescriptions. He gave her Xanax, hydrocodone, oxycodone, and methadone.
All four?
All four.
Without a diagnosis? And she's a teenager?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Oh, good
And
Lord.
they weren't even low doses or cautious trial runs. They were strong, addictive medications, and all of them, for her, unnecessary.
Oh, my good Lord.
But he didn't ask questions. He just, on his little pad paper. Here you go. Prescribed. Within 6 months, Shelley had spiraled into a full-blown addiction.
I mean, anyone would.
How could you not?
Right?
Yeah. What began as a weekend pill-popping situation escalated quickly.
Oh, no.
Her personality began to shift. The bubbly, joyful girl her family knew began to fade. And in her place was someone harder, angrier, unrecognizable. And then, just 4 months after the death of Ellie Harris, Shelley became nearly a statistic of the Russellville community.
No.
On May 30th, 2002, her mother found her unconscious in bed. She had taken too many pills. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital, and there the toxicology tests revealed something deeply alarming. She had Demerol in her system. Demerol is a heavy-duty opioid typically administered only in a clinical setting via injection. It's not a drug that you can just pick up at the pharmacy. So someone had given this directly to her, and wouldn't you know it, the DEA number associated with the Demerol traced right back to Dr. Mann.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Isn't that wild?
I mean, Demerol, that's you give people that when they're undergoing like a procedure that they need to be out for.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Like an IM injection?
Right. Like,
IV?
like if they're claustrophobic and they need an MRI or something, and there's people monitoring their blood pressure and respiratory stuff because this stuff's not safe without medical attention. Holy cow. She's a teenager on all the other stuff too. Oh, God. I'm so upset.
So Shelley, luckily, she survived the overdose, and she was sent to a rehab facility on a 72-hour psychiatric hold. But the hold wasn't long enough, which it is typically not. And then within days of being released, she was back on the pills. Her family was desperate and exhausted and continued to plead with her to stop seeing Dr. Mann, but she refused. And one day, her sister found an opportunity to look through Shelley's purse, and inside, she discovered 2 prescription bottles among many, but these 2 that she had found had her own name on them.
So the sister's name?
Mm-hmm.
Not Shelley's name. Oh, boy. Right. Okay.
And so, stunned and absolutely betrayed, she filed a police report.
That must have been so hard for her, but it's absolutely what needed
but it's
to
like
happen.
I'm like, I gotta save my sister. So like, this is gonna suck, but it has to be done.
Who is this guy that's prescribing for people that haven't even met him?
He's a real puke. When Shelley was brought in for questioning, she didn't even hesitate. She told the police exactly what was happening. She explained how Dr. Mann would write her prescription for a certain number of days, but if she ran out early, he would write a second prescription in someone else's name, and often it was her sister's. That way, she could keep the pills coming. So for police, this was a break that they had been hoping for, because, all those bottles were always tracing back to him, but there's nothing they could do. Until then, their hands had been tied. And so, like I said before, the law made it nearly impossible to stop a doctor from overprescribing, but forgery, that was something that they could pursue. So they probed Shelley for more information, and what she said next blindsided them. Like fall off your chair blindside.
Huh? What's going on? Oh no, I don't know if I want to know this.
She revealed that the relationship with Dr. Mann went beyond prescriptions. She told them that she had been trading sexual favors for pills.
Oh!
It had just become part of their routine.
How?
She would go into the clinic near closing time, and inside the office, he would give her an injection of Demerol, to loosen her up, she said, and then they would have sex.
Oh, he's a monster.
He'd hand her more pills, often from a private stash, not even through official prescriptions, and then she'd leave. There was no shame in the way she recounted their transactions. No sense that this was unusual. For Shelley, this was just how things had gone, how things worked.
Oh my God, he needs to be...
Isn't that
This
wild?
Is so disgusting. I cannot believe that he abused people like this, because I'll tell you what, she's just one that we know about. There's got to be more. This is so disgusting and such an abuse of power. And the fact that he did this just shows that he knows that this is addictive material that's in high demand, and he's just abusing this power. And whatever happened to do no harm to patients?
Yeah, that oath that we always talk about?
Yeah, the Hippocratic oath.
Yeah.
I hate this guy so much. Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, it gets so much worse.
No. Amanda. Yeah. Okay.
So sidebar, because I will get back to the story, but remember last week when I was like, I found something online when I was doing my research that I was like, is this even the same case? But like, how many people are named Randeep Mann?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. It gets worse.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
Yeah. So what had started as a teenager mimicking her mother's illness and had spiraled into exploitation, addiction, and criminal manipulation.
And can I just say rape? Because she's a teenager. Am I right? I'm assuming he's a full-ass adult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, this is...
And you're giving her Demerol to loosen her up first?
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She was both a victim and a key to unlocking something far larger, a system of abuse hiding in plain sight, fueled by the authority and access of a man trusted to heal.
Absolutely.
So, as we already alluded to and talk about often, a doctor is sworn to do no harm. But by now, investigators were grappling with the reality that Dr. Randeep Mann had not only harmed patients, he assisted them in becoming addicted. And once they were hooked, he held all the power. Some patients would give up anything to stay in his good graces. Pills became currency, and for some women, their currency was their body. The claim that Dr. Mann had been trading sexual favors for prescriptions was explosive. Shelley's testimony had shocked even the most seasoned detectives, but allegations alone weren't going to be enough. They needed proof, and without it, it was just her words against his. And Dr. Mann, for all of his flaws, knew how to protect himself, because they always freaking do.
I hate him.
Investigators hoped that Shelley might agree to wear a wire to walk into the clinic and get him talking, but she refused. She wasn't just a witness, she was a dependent, and Dr. Mann was her dealer. Going against him meant cutting off the one thing she felt she couldn't live without. So the police turned to a local narcotics unit, hoping one of the informants might be able to help. But when they checked the names, they hit another wall. Many of the informants were already Dr. Mann's patients. So no one was willing to cross him. But still, investigators were beginning to connect the dots. Overdose deaths were increasing. Prescription bottles pointed back to that name, and they realized that Ellie's death hadn't been an isolated tragedy, rather it was part of a much larger pattern. So they thought, let's go to Ellie's mother and share this information with her. They told her what they suspected, that Dr. Mann was overprescribing these powerful opioids to many people, and more lives were being lost. Teresa did not hesitate. Go Mama Bear. She wanted to assist the investigators in any way that she could. So this is now 18 months after her daughter's death. She filed a formal complaint. And the complaint set in motion a hearing before the Arkansas State Medical Board. On August 8th, 2003, a panel of doctors and health professionals convened. And at the center of it was Dr. Randeep Mann. His demeanor was confident and a bit combative. He didn't show remorse or reflection. Instead, he continued to place blame on his patients. When Ellie's name came up, he didn't express sadness or regret. He simply shared that they were, quote, becoming friends, end quote, and claimed that she had other problems that she hadn't shared. He then had the audacity to turn towards her grieving mother and said, "Let's hear from her mother. Let's get her up here. Let's ask what kind of relationship she had with her daughter." No empathy, no ownership, just deflection. He denied every allegation of sexual misconduct, and again, without physical evidence, the board had no way to confirm or disprove the claims. But the volume of concerns, the overdose statistics, and the recklessness in his prescribing habits were too much to ignore. So on October 2nd, 2003, the board voted to suspend his DEA license, which is the license that allows him to prescribe. It was a small victory, and immediately the impact of this decision was felt. Overdose cases in the community dropped, and for the first time in years, the death toll slowed down, but unfortunately, it wouldn't last. But before we talk more about that, it's time for a chart note. Chart note. Welcome to the Chart Note segment, where we learn about what's happening in medicine and healthcare. All right, so there's a hospital in Georgia called Emory Hillendale, and it has become the first hospital in the United States to fully adopt Apple's ecosystem, including Mac, iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch, to be integrated with Epic Systems healthcare apps to enhance clinical workflows and patient care. This tech overhaul aims to improve efficiency, mobility, and communication for clinicians while also enhancing patient engagement and satisfaction. "We're not just changing technology, we're changing a culture," says Ravi Thadani, MD, MPH, Executive Vice President for Health Affairs of Emory University and Executive Director of Emory's Woodruff Health Sciences Center. Emory Healthcare is redefining both the patient and clinician experiences with a more efficient and intuitive technology-driven process. "As clinicians, we join the field with a deep commitment to serve those in need," said Vikram Narayan, MD, Assistant Professor of Urology at Emory University and a urologic oncologist at Emory Healthcare. He said, "But the reality of healthcare delivery is inherently complex and multifaceted. Across the industry as a whole, administrative burden combined with shrinking workforce is resulting in an uptick in burnout of frontline workers." Say it louder for those in the back, sir. Thank you. So to alleviate some of the administrative burden, laptops and desktop computers across the 100-bed hospital have been replaced with Mac computers that run Epic. Nursing stations are equipped with iMac and Mac Mini, and physicians are able to manage patient care from wherever they are because of the portability of the MacBook Air. Care teams can manage patient-specific data, such as allergies, precautions, and other relevant information using a magnetically attached iPad outside of each patient room. This effort helps to improve communication and coordination between care teams, and updates between the care teams show on the iPad in real time.
Okay, so this is kind of like what is currently or used to be the whiteboard.
Yeah.
That my daughter wrote DNI on, so that wouldn't happen.
Yes. Exactly.
Yay! Progress.
Yay!
Okay.
That's so funny. Additionally, every nurse and physician has their own iPhone to stay connected, and physicians are using Apple Watch to more quickly respond to patient needs as they arise. So, for example, if a critical lab result comes in, it will just pop up on the wrist, and then the doctor can look at it right away. So prior to the development of these systems, they conducted a proof of concept program at Emory St. Joseph Hospital. And after deploying the iMac, MacBook, and iPhone for shared use by registered nurses and clinicians, care team satisfaction surged and nurse retention remained strong, which is excellent because we need more nurses.
Yeah, we do.
Nurses and clinicians cited improvements like faster login time with Apple devices, ease of documentation, and less eye strain because of some
Cool.
blue light, whatever screen thing Apple has.
Yeah.
Additional research showed that combining Apple technology with Epic and Abridge ambient documentation saved an average of 2 hours a day compared to legacy systems. That's a lot.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I just started using Abridge, which is like you ask the patient. It's kind of uncomfortable at first but you're like, I'm going to. Are you okay with me recording you on my iPhone? And then you tell the patient like, it's not gonna. If we talk about the weather or you tell me any secrets, it's not gonna put that in your health history. And I tell you what, this thing is so smart. It has saved me so much time.
Really?
Because I like to look back and say, well, we talked about X, Y, Z, and this is who this patient is, and this is what their environment is, and this is why this is important to them. And it's so hard to remember that at the end of the day when you're seeing 14 patients a day or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's been really good. And I did have someone who was like, okay, we're going to test this. And then they told me a secret. I was like, all right. Cause this is so new. Like in the last week or so, I've tried this. So I told this patient, do you mind being a guinea pig? And it was a teenager. And she was like, I don't mind. And I was like, okay, but just so you know, you can tell me secrets, but it won't record the secrets. It'll know what's important and what's not. And so she told me a secret, and then we both went into the record to see if it recorded the secret, and it didn't. So I'm just so excited about
so when you
how
play
this
it
is.
back, is it just a transcription of what was said, or do you can hear like audio?
So no, you don't hear it at all. It transcribes the whole
Conversation
thing, and then out of that it pulls. Yeah, it transcribes the whole thing, but it doesn't go in the record.
Sure.
It's just like a quick draft, because if you say, well, and then it summarizes. So let's say someone was talking for a long time about their blood pressure medication and how it made him feel. It might just say, well, he notices when he lifts something heavy, he gets a little lightheaded and he's tried XYZ. But if you right click before you decide to save what Abridge tells you to do, if you right click, it'll say, show me the evidence, and it'll go back to the transcript and say, well, it deduced that from this conversation.
That's so cool.
And it'll show you the actual transcript. And then you can delete it or rewrite it or whatever, but I'm pretty excited about, how much time, because it's either that or we just don't write as much about people because they're cutting our appointment times in half, and the nature of healthcare is like, got to get more people in more quickly because we need access and there's, yeah. So,
yeah. And I remember
it's exciting
too, like, I love that it does that for you. Cause I mean, I would just be like, jotting notes during the history, especially for like a vestibular patient. That's a lot of history you're collecting.
Yeah.
And they are excellent at sharing.
Who wanted to talk to, I had someone who wanted to talk to me for 26 minutes about things that were really, really important to him. But not all of it, some of it was politics. Like, not all of it was important. So it condensed it down into a really like, oh, thank goodness you were able to weed that out. And I didn't have to try and take notes or turn my back to him and go onto my computer to write stuff down.
And then you can just have more face-to-face time without like, I have to write all this down or like slow down. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Or try and remember at the end of the day what this person out of however many people actually was telling you. So, I mean, I had my doubts, but I honestly...
I'm glad it's going well.
It's going to play a role, I think. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So just to like share some key highlights of this movement that they've done. So full Apple integration. They placed the legacy hardware with the Macs, iPads, iPhones, and Apple Watches, enabling clinicians to manage care more efficiently and stay connected. It has workflow improvements from real-time updates via the iPads outside the patient rooms and Apple Watch alerts to help streamline care delivery. Nurses and doctors report faster logins, easier documentation, and better mobility. Patient engagement. So I thought this was kind of cool, but patients all have an iPad with MyChart bedside app to access medical records, order meals, and communicate with care teams.
Oh, that's cool. As inpatients, they can go on and, that's really cool.
So the article talked about how they feel more involved with their care because of that. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Burnout reduction. So streamlined processes have reduced administrative burdens and are linked to higher satisfaction and nurse retention. privacy and security. Right. Apple's built-in security measures help protect sensitive healthcare data, and looking ahead for them, Emory and Epic plan to further innovate, including testing technologies like Apple Vision Pro for surgical planning and research.
That's awesome. Cool. Another thing, sorry, just one more thing that I've noticed that's new. I don't know if it's part of the Abridge software, but it's definitely AI generated. And we've talked about this on this podcast in the chart notes about how the quandary about how we need to be transparent. We're not allowed to hide test results or reports or anything. Patients need immediate access to it, and I understand why, but there's also an argument but we need to explain. And so now there's another tab, at least in Epic, where you can see, let's say you have an MRI and you have the radiology report and it's using gadolinium with whatever, and there's a such and such. Yeah. And you can click on the tab and it will say, what does this mean? And it will have the same report, but in layman's terms. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool.
So on that, so not just in Epic, but so obviously I don't work at the hospital anymore. I don't use these systems, but so as a patient now, when I've went in for surgery recently or had imaging done, on my app, my chart app or whatever it's called, I guess it, whatever, I don't need to say where I go with clinic, but so for the radiology stuff, it does the same thing for the patient's view, and it will say generating a patient-friendly whatever version, and so it doesn't have all that medical jargon in there. It's just blah, 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 this is what it was.
But as a patient, as someone who thinks I know a little bit about healthcare and probably this is probably a dangerous little amount, but you know what I mean? Yeah. I want to see both.
Yeah.
And so I love that you can do that.
I think you can see both.
Now. Yeah. At least with Epic you can. I don't know about the others, but you can read the hardcore stuff, and then you can read this is what it means in layman's terms. And then you can go, okay, but you didn't explain this. Am I going to die tomorrow? Or what? I mean, you can still go down those rabbit holes.
Yeah, right. We want a rabbit hole when we want a rabbit hole, right? We're all patients at the end of the day.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Very cool.
Okay, back to the story. Yeah, buckle up. Okay.
Sorry, that wasn't negative towards you. I just don't like this
No,
stuff.
Right. I know. Yeah, no, I knew what you meant. Yeah. Okay, rather than backing down, Dr. Mann was on the offensive. Offensive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either.
Sure.
Either or. Both.
Sure. He filed appeal after appeal, even launching a federal lawsuit against the Arkansas State Medical Board, claiming that they had discriminated against him. After a drawn-out legal battle, his DEA license was reinstated in July of 2004, and just like that, he was back in business, baby.
Oh, God. Why did it take us so long to learn the dangers of opioids?
I know. The consequences of the reinstatement were swift and devastating. The community, which is just a town of 8 to 10 square miles in size, quickly saw an uptick in overdose deaths. And by the end of that year, 18 more people were dead.
No.
All of them patients of Dr. Mann. Outside of his clinic, people lined up around the block. They weren't coming in for checkups, y'all. They were coming in for pills. And he wasn't just practicing medicine anymore. He was fueling an epidemic. He was a full-blown drug dealer with a DEA license to do it.
Right?
The tragedy was systemic. The safeguards that should have stopped him failed again and again and again and again. Just a bunch of legal red tape. A medical board without teeth. A law enforcement system struggling to hold a physician accountable without airtight evidence. And worst of all, communities like Russellville became hotspots for addiction and death. Not because help was unavailable, but because help had been weaponized. The people who walked into Dr. Mann's office didn't all arrive in the same way. Some were in pain, others pretending to be. Some were desperate, some were manipulated, and others, like Ellie, just came in trying to stay clean. But most of them left worse than they arrived, and this is what happens when the person with the prescription pad becomes the most dangerous person in the room. And by the end of 2004, the damage that Randeep Mann had inflicted on the community was undeniable. He was still prescribing and people were dying. One of many who was still caught in his web was Shelley. She had continued using, cycling through moments of clarity and chaos. After a fight with her mother in December, things escalated. Her mom, concerned and suspicious, called the police. And when officers searched Shelley's purse, they found an alarming amount of pills, enough to suggest that she wasn't just using, but perhaps she may be selling. She was arrested and charged with intent to distribute, and she was sentenced to a year in prison. For the first time in a long time, her family exhaled because finally, she was clean. And when she got out, they said it felt like they had Shelley back. But the relief didn't last. Addiction doesn't vanish behind prison doors. And not long after her release, Shelley made her way back to Dr. Mann's clinic.
Ugh.
There's a strange symmetry in the tragedies here. So Ellie Harris and Shelley Green both shared a birthday. They were born on the same day, and their lives haunted by the same man. That connection took an eerie turn when Shelley appeared on the doorstep of Teresa Harris and her husband, asking about a rental property that they had advertised. Teresa immediately recognized that Shelley was high. She also realized through conversation that she was something else. This girl was another patient of Dr. Mann. Teresa, ever compassionate, didn't turn her away and instead offered kindness and asked questions. She listened, and she soon learned the same disturbing pattern. Shelley didn't have insurance, but she didn't need it because we know Mann didn't ask. He just wrote prescriptions, and it was all too familiar. And then came the final heartbreak in Shelley Green's story. On October 1st, 2005, Shelley was dropped off at a local hospital, unconscious, by two men who left her at the door and drove away.
Oh, no.
Doctors did what they could, but it was too late. Her brain was unresponsive. Another young woman, another life lost, and just another name to add to the growing list. 9 months later, in July 2006, Dr. Mann was once again called before the Arkansas State Medical Board. The spike in overdose deaths had triggered yet another investigation. But this time the tone was different, the frustration more visible, and the board was out of patience. Dr. Mann's defense hadn't changed. His attorneys argued that he couldn't control what his patients did once they left the office. He prescribed responsibly, they claimed. If someone had overdosed, it wasn't his fault. But Dr. Trent Pierce, a familiar face in the room as the chairman of the medical board, he was the chairman of the medical board through both rounds of the investigation. He had heard enough. He stood and looked directly at Mann and said, "I've been practicing medicine for 19 years. Do you know how many of my patients have died from drug overdoses? 0. None. You, Dr. Mann, have had 19 overdoses among your patients. Does that not alarm you?" And Mann was livid, furious, ever defensive, but behind the anger was a deeper truth. His excuses were no longer enough. His empire of prescription drug abuse was finally taken seriously, and the board voted to suspend his medical license for a second time. Yay!
Yay!
It was the morning of February 4th, 2009, and Dr. Trent Pierce, the same man who chaired the Arkansas State Medical Board, the one who publicly challenged Mann's practices and suspended his license twice, was getting ready for another board meeting. He stepped outside his home in West Memphis to begin his day. Inside, his wife heard a sound so violent, so enormous, that it shook the house. Kaboom!
Oh.
She ran outside. What she found was the stuff nightmares are made out of. Her husband was lying on the flower bed by the driveway. His clothes had been burned completely off. His body was charred, almost unrecognizable. Blood sacs hung from both of his eyes, and his leg was shattered, twisted unnaturally by a compound fracture. Dr. Pierce was barely conscious, but somehow managed to mutter, "The tire blew up." 911 was called, and he was rushed by ambulance to a local hospital, and from there airlifted to a burn center in Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh my God.
Special Agent David Oliver and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, AFT, arrived on the scene at Dr. Pierce's home. He saw Dr. Pierce's white Lexus SUV, the front bumper of it lying detached in the driveway. Shrapnel littered the ground, and a post-blast investigation began immediately. They discovered pieces of what appeared to be an MK3A2 offensive hand grenade.
Oh, goodness.
This is a military-grade grenade, not something that you'd find at like a sporting goods store.
Right.
And while not legally sold to civilians, such items were known to circulate on the black market. Oh. Investigators also found a spare tire lying nearby. It wasn't just blown off, it had been weaponized. The tire had been rigged. Taped to the back side of it was the grenade, which had been leaned against the front of the car. When Dr. Pierce moved the tire that morning, because he's trying to get to work, the grenade detonated. And there was immediate concern. Was this terrorism? Domestic? International? Political? But there was a problem. There's no DNA at the scene, no prints, because explosives don't leave much behind. Oh, no. The blast had burned away every clue, every trace.
It's awful.
So the investigation turned to motive. Who would want to hurt Dr. Pierce? He was widely respected, well-liked, not just for his profession, but in his community. A small-town doctor who volunteered, mentored, and saved lives. AFT contacted the Arkansas State Medical Board, inquiring if there had been any recent disciplinary hearings. Were there any doctors who had lost something valuable? The board provided a short list of 5 names, and Dr. Randeep Mann was one of them. To some, his name stood out immediately. For Teresa Harris, it wasn't even a question that he must have been involved. She said he lost his power, and Trent Pierce is the one who took it from him. There had always been tension between the two men. Mann hated being questioned. He didn't like being told that he was wrong. And Dr. Pierce, steadfast and unrelenting during both trials, hadn't accepted Mann's excuses. He called them exactly what they were: deadly. It was a clash of philosophies, ethics versus ego, medicine versus manipulation, and crave versus control. And now one of them had nearly been killed. The explosive outside Dr. Pierce's home changed everything. This wasn't about overprescriptions anymore. It wasn't about vague suspicions or regulatory hearings. This was criminal, violent, intentional. Investigators had a suspect, but they needed more. What followed was one of the most intense and complex investigations in Arkansas law enforcement history, and it would take them from pill bottles and patient records to weapons and stockpiles and murder plots. I actually read during my research that this case is used in why can't I think of the word? Like when you're going to school to be a lawyer.
Yeah. Videos.
Yeah, it's part of like your curriculum when you're in law school. Law school is the word I was looking for. Oh. On the evening of the bombing, agents from the AFT and AR, that was a note for myself, Arkansas State Police arrived at Dr. Mann's home. They sat him down and asked questions like, where were you the night of February 3rd and the morning of February 4th? And he claimed that he had been at the gym around 10 p.m. the night before, and as for the morning of the bombing, he said he was still asleep in his bed at home in Russellville. So if this was true, it would place him about 200 miles away from Dr. Pierce's home in West Memphis. But this didn't rule him out as a suspect because the drive could certainly be done in just over 3 hours, which is plenty of time to plant the device and make it back home before sunrise. During the interview, Mann was transparent about his gun collection and offered to show it to agents. It wasn't just a few pistols in a drawer, my friends. No. He had federal firearm license. So he had a stockpile of vast and legally registered arsenal of machine guns, assault rifles, and inside a locked safe, 2 40-millimeter grenade launchers.
What?
Yes. Grenade launchers. The kind that fire the exact type of explosive that nearly killed Dr. Pierce. However, Mann, of course, insisted that he didn't have any actual grenades to go with them. He just owned the launchers. And owning the launchers was legal if they were registered, but the ownership of grenades themselves is a much more tightly controlled situation.
Tightly controlled? What do we need grenades for, people? Anybody. If it's not a... what? You're not going to throw a grenade at a deer, are you? Come on.
I would guess not. What's going
on here? Oh, my God.
Agents followed up on the alibi, and a gym employee confirmed seeing him at the gym around 10 p.m. So that checked out, but it didn't exonerate him, not by a long shot. Investigators were at a frustrating impasse. They had no DNA, no fingerprints, nothing concrete to place Mann at the scene. But then, a month after the bombing, fate intervened by way of a city worker who was doing routine maintenance near Mann's home. He was walking near a water line when the heel of his boot caught something in the dirt. Curious, he turned around and noticed a piece of metal peeking out from the ground. He called over a coworker, and together they dug it up. What they unearthed was a military ammo box. Inside, 98 40-millimeter grenades.
Wait, what?
98.
Almost 100 grenades?
98.
Like full-ass grenades? 98
full-ass grenades.
Oh.
Just in your MFing lawn.
Oh.
Like, I don't know much about... No, I don't even know much. I don't know nothing.
What?
About grenades.
No, I don't either, but, like, first of all, why did he have 100 grenades? Second of all, what are you doing burying them there? Was he hoping that...
But I would be, like, petrified to mow the lawn. I'll be, like, knowing that you're mowing the lawn over this box. Third of all, did you happen to buy 100 and now you only have 98?
So the two that got him in the car, the tire, right? So the other 98, he thought, well, I'll just bury him here because somebody might trip over this. Like, what?
Did you get them at Costco? Did you get like a bulk sale price? What was happening? Why do you have like a 98?
I have so many questions. I don't get it. Okay. Well, hopefully you'll answer them.
Yeah. So they were buried just a mere 875 feet from this man's house.
Dork.
Freaking weirdo. So I'm sure you've already guessed, but the kind of grenades that were found matched the exact caliber needed for his launchers. But remember, he didn't have any. He just had the launchers.
And it's weird. Yeah. I mean, they're only 875 feet from my house, but I don't know how those got there. That's so strange.
Wild.
Idiot. Right.
Had I known they were there the whole time, I could have used my launchers.
I would put the other two.
Days.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Not only were they the kind that matched the launchers that he had, they were the kind that matched the blast signature of the weapon used to blow up Dr. Pierce. And so this discovery changed everything.
Thank goodness.
Investigators rushed to secure a search warrant, and inside his home, they found more than just the launchers. They found the lot numbers on the buried grenades that matched the ammo in his collection. But what truly disturbed investigators, and I'm shocked that this was still there, but they found a spare tire casually leaning against a shower wall. The exact kind of tire used in the bombing, positioned just so, like he had rehearsed the attack. Testing how to like balance the grenade, how to detonate it right at the right time. I'm like,
okay.
I'm glad that like criminals are dumb.
Yeah.
But like, if you already been questioned, do you think you might get rid of that?
I don't know. I kind of like me a little like grenade launcher / spare tire scenario by my shower.
Also, if you were practicing in your own house, you're going to blow up your own house, you big dumb idiot.
Thank God he was a dumbass. Okay.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So, that evening he was arrested.
Mm-hmm.
But still, the case wasn't easy, as all of the evidence was circumstantial. There was no confession, no eyewitness, no bomb-making manual, no forensic smoking gun. Prosecutors couldn't even bring up the 19 overdose deaths that he was connected to, but not directly, at least. Yeah.
Which is ridiculous, but okay.
So they found ways to suggest the motive in the courtroom by like explaining his loss of power and that his reputation had been destroyed and that his ego was so wounded by the man who had dared to strip him of the authority he once wielded like a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
The man who once sat at the center of a small town medical empire, the one who handed out prescriptions like candy, the one that ruined lives and then shrugged, was now facing justice, not for pills, but for weapons of war. And now can you see when I was doing my research, I'm like, wait a second, what? Is this the same guy? What?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So it wasn't the ending that anyone would have expected, but thank God he was arrested. So
I mean, whatever it takes, but yeah, holy cow.
Yeah. So in August of 2010, a federal jury convicted Mann on 7 of 8 counts. Count 1, conspiracy to use and aiding and abetting in the use of a weapon of mass destruction, causing damage or destruction of a vehicle by means of an explosive resulting in personal injury, possession of unregistered grenades, possession of unregistered machine gun, possession of a machine gun, conspiracy to corruptly obstruct an official proceeding, which was because his wife hid some paperwork, which she had her own trial for, but aiding and abetting in the corrupt concealment of documents with intent to impair the use of it in an official proceeding. So he was acquitted on the charge of possessing an unregistered shotgun, whatever. The trial that ended on February 4th, 2009, Dr. Pierce was severely injured when a bomb concealed in that spare tire and rigged with that grenade exploded outside of his home. The explosion caused significant injuries, including the loss of an eye and partial deafness. Investigators linked the attack to Dr. Mann, and after discovering those, just 98 just 98 grenades buried in his residence matched the type used in the bombing. And additionally, the spare tire in his home was believed to be staging in practice, because why would you just have the other spare tire?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he was convicted on multiple counts related to use of the weapon of mass destruction against Dr. Pierce and his vehicle, possession of these unregistered weapons, like I've already said. He was sentenced by the United States District Judge Brian Miller to life plus 360 months in prison on 2 bombing counts, 10 years on 3 weapons counts, and 5 years on obstruction counts. The weapons convictions included counts of owning an unregistered machine gun and possessing almost 100 grenades, which were found near his residence. As we know, he was also fined $100,000. Dr. Pierce and his wife Melissa filed a civil lawsuit against Mann, and Dr. Pierce, was awarded $12.5 million in compensatory damages and $100 million in punitive damages. Melissa was awarded $5 million in compensatory damages for a loss of consortium and $5 million in punitive damages, bringing the total judgment against Mann to $122.5 million. He is currently serving his life sentence, at the federal prison in Tucson, Arizona.
Amanda, thank you for bringing this to light. I guess, thank God that he was such a stupid ass criminal that he got caught doing these absurd, horrible things to get rid of the one person who was trying to hold him accountable. But what really bothers me is that it doesn't seem like it's done anything about, it didn't bring to light the overprescription of opioids.
Yeah.
You know, and I know this was, when was this? 2000?
Early 2000s, 2010, he was, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he started in 2002 or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to think that things are different now, that we have different regulations in place and different, I don't know, that this isn't possible anymore, that somebody could be held accountable for overprescribing, especially when he didn't even meet. Some of these people weren't even his patients. And with a history of addiction and stuff, like, this stuff should be highlighted in charts. Like, there should be more accountability now. And I feel like, I don't know. I don't know if you have the answer, but is this better now? Or can somebody like Randeep, as long as they don't try to bomb the crap out of their adversary, keep doing this sort of thing?
Yeah, I don't have a concrete answer, but I'd like to say that it's better, right? Like, I would like to say that after this happened, we learned that there needs to be stricter monitoring of this, but I don't know for sure. I'll go look it up.
I mean, we are 20 years later, and I do know that, I mean, I've had major surgeries, and they're all, like, really upset and kind of reticent to give me and I, by no means, not that I'm judging those who are addicted, but, like, I'm by no means addicted to opioids. And it's like, okay, well, we just took out your spleen, but you know what? If you could get by with Tylenol,
take some Tylenol.
Try that.
Yeah. No.
And let us know. You know, I'm like, okay, I get it though. I get it, you know? So it's so hard to get antibiotics. I'm hoping
but also this is like a private practice clinic too. So that could look a little different.
Yeah. I just hope it's on the radar. I mean, because honestly, I don't carry Narcan around, and I hear that's a thing too. Like, you know, as citizens, when you're kind of wandering around a metropolitan area, you should be ready for people who've overdosed and like try and help them. And I don't know, God, it's so depressing. It's so depressing that he had to become like a attempted murderer, because that's what that was. You should honestly be in jail for attempted murder. But
and like, what was your end game there? You're gonna kill Dr. Pierce and just hope that the board gives you your license back?
Yeah, what? And then you just keep throwing pills at teenagers who die. I mean, well,
I have sex with them sometimes too.
Yeah, he is such a disgusting specimen. I hope he stays in there.
Well, he got life plus 360 months, so he ain't going anywhere.
Okay.
I wish he was somewhere like, I mean, I guess I've never been to jail or like how often they get to go outside, but I wish he was somewhere like that nasty weather and not just Arizona.
I mean, he killed teenagers. I wonder if prison justice might place him at risk and he's a little more solitary, you know?
Yeah, true.
Any hoozle. Yeah, good job.
Any hoozles. Thank you. I did want to share a new sponsor with you guys, because how much do you hate it when your MFing bra is uncomfortable?
Pretty much every day, Amanda, truth be told.
Yeah, pretty much the best part of my day is taking my bra off.
Getting home. So, let's clarify. You get home first, right? You're not at work going,
well, yeah, no, I wait. So there's a company called Handful, which I was like, that's funny. Handful sports bras. And they want to sponsor us. Because there's nothing worse than a freaking shitty ass sports bra, especially when I'm going for a run. And then it's like, well, okay, my body's not even sore from that run, but the ladies, they're sore from bouncing.
Yeah.
Do we really need to be doubling up? No. Now we don't have to do any of that anymore, because Handful sports bras, they look amazing. I still have to order, but they're available at handful.com. They combine comfort, style, and performance, created by fitness instructor and mom, Jennifer. They're designed to support active lifestyles with moisture-wicking fabric. Thank God, because who loves a sweaty band? I'm pointing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So bad.
Sweaty gal.
So moisture-wicking fabric, adjustable straps, and removable pads. Perfect for workouts or daily wear. Handful bras and their coordinating leggings and tops, if you're into matchy-matchy, are made by women for women. Love it. Featured in top fitness magazines and loved by customers, Handful also gives back through their survivor support program, offering free pads to breast cancer survivors. Move confidently with activewear that empowers. Visit www.handful.com for 30% off with our code Stay Suspicious.
Stay Suspicious. At 30%.
STAYSUSPICIOUS. 30%.
Love that.
Have some happy ladies.
I love that for us.
Yeah.
Are you ready for a quick medical mishap, my friend?
Oh, sure.
Okay, I am going to tell you just a quick story about how when I was married and I felt like I needed somehow to connect a bit more with my husband at the time, because he was all...
do we need to throw out a rating?
Huh?
Do we need to throw out a rating?
Not in that way.
Kat was like, where are we going here?
This is clean. This is clean, folks.
Okay.
No, but I just felt like, he's off riding these motorcycles all the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm not a motorcycle gal, but I got me a little monkey bike. And I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe we could do this together. Maybe this is a way for me to...
have a shared hobby.
Well, exactly. Have a shared hobby. So, my daughter, she was, 13, 14 at the time, and she had a little friend over, and they were watching anxiously from window in the house, and I had the monkey bike. Now, honestly, Amanda, I have to admit to the audience, and there's going to be some judgment here, but I don't know how to ride a bicycle. Okay. I am so sorry. When I was 10 years old, I had a bike and I sold it so I could get a clarinet. And that is the nerd that I am. And there's no forgiveness for that. It's just who I am. Okay. So your girl doesn't even know how to ride a bicycle, but I'm going to learn how to ride a motorcycle because, I'm game.
Well, for sure.
I like a bit of thrills, like maybe we could, blow my wig off on the road and just enjoy, right? So I've got a monkey bike. For those of you who don't know, is like a smaller Honda bike. I mean, it's like 1.5 liter, like not a big deal. Like I thought it was a good beginner situation. So here I am. Husband at the time, super anal about his bike and all the, nobody must scratch it, whatever. He's giving me my first lesson and I'm like on the side of our backyard. And so he says, do this, do that, and do the other. So there I go. And next thing you know, I didn't even go 50 feet. I went, and then the thing reared up on the back wheel. This is the first time I've ever ridden a bike and the last time. And, basically smashed into a tree. Oh my God. At which point I come off, and it wasn't a big tree, it was a little tree, and she's not okay. The little tree is not okay.
I was gonna say, is she still with us?
Neither was my foot. The trees, no. She's not looking so great. So I come flying off. My daughter's filming me for some tickety talk thing and laughing her butt off. And my ex-husband is gesticulating in the yard and chasing the bike, which has gone off without me on it. And he's like, "Oh my God, you scratched the whatever." And I'm totally stunned. And I just limp off like ashamedly into the house. Well, apparently I did something called whiskey throttle where, you pull on the gas, and then if you do that and you step on the throttle at the same, I don't even know what it is that I did, but whatever I did was like telling it to do its worst and just like rocket fuel me into the tree. So I did the worst thing I could possibly do, and I went 50 feet, and that is my entire motorcycle career. So I'm in the house going, well, I don't feel so great. Not only my pride, but my foot is really hurting. Daughter stops laughing. Mom, are you okay? Ex-husband comes around like, well, it's minorly scratched. I think we're going to be good. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be good. So we go to the emergency room, and sure enough, I've shattered my foot. And long story be told, 6 months later, I've got a metal rod in my foot, in my trigger foot. And so my motorcycle career is over, and I can't wear stiletto heels anymore. Not that I was trip-trapping around with those, but like, when you get a metal rod in your big toe, you can't really do that anymore. So that was my medical mishap, but also I don't have to worry about trying to be a motorcycle rider anymore. So here we go, folks.
And then after that, she got to ride one of those little scooters after you have foot surgery.
God, one of those nerdy things where you put your knee on it. You know what? That was worse than riding a motorcycle. I just ended up.
You looked so cool.
Yeah, right. Hated it.
It was in the cold months that you had your surgery too, wasn't it?
Yeah. Because I tried to ignore the fact that this thing was really hurting and I couldn't walk on it, and I got tired of the boot. And then eventually, my podiatrist said, "You know what, lady? We can fix it. We just need to bypass your joint, your fractured joint with an actual piece of metal." And so I said, okay, cool. I'm a tall girl. I don't need to wear stilettos. Let's do it. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing about your motorcycle career. I have never tried to drive one and probably will never.
I know you haven't because you said drive, and I don't think they say that. They say that you drive a motorcycle.
Yeah. Ride. Well, aren't you driving it?
Sally, ride. I don't know. I don't think it's driving a motorcycle. I think it's riding.
But is it driving a snowmobile? Or is it riding?
Now, that's where you have to be a true Minnesotan to know the answer to whether you ride or drive a snowmobile.
I should know the answer to that. I have a snowmobile license.
I can't answer that one.
You know what? Adam knows everything. We'll ask him. Stay tuned. We'll ask Adam.
So,
what do we have coming up next week?
Well, next week we have a story about a felonious phlebotomist. Say that 10 times.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a shocker.
Yeah. Oh, dang.
Yeah, you don't want to miss it. But
okay, I'll be there.
You better be. Until then, don't miss a beat. Subscribe or follow Doctoring the Truth wherever you enjoy your podcasts for stories that shock, intrigue, and educate. Trust, after all, is a delicate thing. You can text us directly on our website at doctoringthetruth@buzzsprout.com or email us your own medical mishaps and comments at doctoringthetruth@gmail. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Doctoring the Truth Podcast and on Facebook at Doctoring the Truth. We're on TikTok at Doctoring the Truth and EdAudPod. That's EDAUDPOD. Don't forget to download, rate, and review. We need your ratings. Please just give us those 5 stars and a little itty-bitty comment. That would mean so much to us. That way we'll be sure to bring you more content next week. Until then, stay safe and stay suspicious. Bye.
Goodbye. We got to go see if Taylor releases an album.
Let's hope so.